Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to the Trick Podcast with Joey and Ghost TV on this beautiful Monday or Tuesday. What is today? Tuesday, almost 10 a.m. I'm back from our beautiful trip to the beautiful Oregon, Bend, Oregon, to spend time with Dad Baker, who is going through some health challenges. It's good to be with him and to love on him and to celebrate. Wasn't his birthday or anything. Just celebrate being together, I guess is what I mean to say. And also, of course, for my beautiful wife and I to just walk around the beautiful countryside, you could say, of Bend, Oregon. It does feel like we're up in the mountains. I mean, you could say Bend is the mountains, but it's actually more, I think, like, I call it Central Oregon. Central Oregon. But if you, I'm not on Instagram, but I am posting a few things on Facebook, so you can go there and check out some of the pictures of us walking around the beautiful countryside. And what I love most, we lived in Colorado for almost 4 years. What I love most about Oregon and Colorado are the seasons, the fall leaves. And right now, even though it is almost November, you could say, it's still warm, like 65. You can still walk around and really enjoy life and a lot of good stuff, a lot of good thinking, a lot of good decisions that Rochelle and I made. Maybe not decisions, but just observations. Noting how we feel, noting kind of what Bend, Oregon offers, especially when it comes to her dad, who's up there, who needs our support. Of course, he comes down here a lot, but it seems like perhaps most of his upcoming care is going to be handled up there. And so, of course, also Rochelle's twin sister lives up there in Bend, Oregon. Shout out to Suzanne and Gabe. So a lot of good things that we've been thinking about, and as far as long-term and kind of what to do with ourselves. But speaking of that, it's also been a good weekend of, actually it was a good week even, the week before we left. Last Tuesday, Wednesday, Rochelle and I had a good conversation about budget and finances and my business, and it's going well, but I still need a solid part-time job. And so if you know anything about out there about, or if you know anything that's open, I'm looking to do something, whether it's administrative or media or tech in the schools, maybe at a nonprofit, perhaps at an elementary school or at a college. I've applied to a few places, so I'm going to continue to apply. But that's definitely something that will help ease the pain and the toll on our savings, because obviously those savings aren't forever, and so we have to keep replenishing the tank. And so that was a good conversation to have. By the way, I think that couples, and we've been doing this for 30 years, 27 years married and 2 years that we were dating, so 27 years. We've been going over our budget for 27 years, every week, maybe not every week anymore, but definitely every month. And at first I was the one in charge of the finances, taking care of all the things. Then, I don't know, maybe 5-10 years in, then Rochelle took over that. And of course, as we've made more money, less money, it's easier when you have more money. But even when you have more money, or you don't have much, it's always important to go over your numbers. And I have been a guy who at times I like talking about finances, but at times I don't, because I either think, well, we're fine, whatever Rochelle decides, as long as I can buy my gear and that kind of stuff. But then when things do get tough, like right now, sometimes I can blame myself for thinking, well, I'm not bringing enough money, and so why feel guilty? But that's not a good way to look at it. So finally, as I said last week, we talked about it, looked at our savings, looked at our accounts, looked at what's coming in, with obviously her working and then my business plus side projects that I have. And so I definitely need a part-time hustle that can stabilize our finances as my business and as God provides through alternative methods. Also, I think it was good to look at church and kind of what we want to do and not want to do with church. Obviously, I've been a full-time pastor for 30 years. That's been my main source of income. It's been a good income, what any professional would want and would deserve. But I don't know, a long time ago, maybe even I don't know, certainly the last couple of years, God has been shifting my focus to ministry that's more bivocational, where I am making my living through media, through supporting churches, through teaching, through obviously music production, all the things that I love to do, and to supplement in some ways the church, to consult, to be a media consultant and a digital content creator consultant for the church, as well as having my own studio here at the house where influencers and Christian leaders and different artists and people can come in and record their shows, and I can produce their podcast, and in that way also I can contribute to their ministry. And of course it's a paid service, so that's all part of the plan. But that takes time, and I've been doing this maybe for, I think, as far as really doing it, maybe for just 6 months, maybe 9 months. So it takes time. I mean, these ventures take years. And so, as I said, one of the things, being a responsible man, anyone would attest to this, is you have to take care of your basic needs while you have this side thing. And this is just what every leader, every pastor, I mean, we all know this. If you are a pastor, you're a young leader, you want your ministry to flourish, but you need to take care of the bills. And so you'll do whatever it takes. And so I think a lot of it that I'm dealing with is just my mental game of just shifting my mentality from 30 years of working at a church and having that be my main thing to really this different bivocational lifestyle. And I think it's just more of a mental block that I'm having, that I at times I struggle with, to just simply shift and to become what I want to become, which is this man who provides digital services and who's a producer to artists, to Christian leaders, to influencers, to men and women of God who want to spread the gospel through this space. And I can be behind the scenes for them while I minister at the church and teach and preach and disciple and lead worship and teach at Veti, where I'm teaching now. And these smaller things, some are volunteer, a lot of them are, and some of them are paid, but not a lot. They're more supplemental. So I've driven Lyft, but Lyft puts a big toll on my little old car, and so I don't know if I want to do that. Although I did like it for a while, and so I might even do that even now as a way to just create some income without ruining my car, and plus gas prices and all that. So it's not always a very intelligent decision. But yeah, so I've been on the phone and on the internet, of course, looking for work, and but not with any sort of like, oh no, the sky's falling. I did have two interviews, and neither of them worked out. The first one I didn't really want. Actually, neither of them was I excited about. The Santa Monica College one that I mentioned, I was excited for the job, but it's in Santa Monica. We're talking about almost 2 hours one way. So, and I didn't get it. I was top 3, and I wasn't chosen. But I'm glad that I made it to the top 3. It would have been a good opportunity, even though, as I said, I may not have taken it. I don't know. I guess we'll never know now. And then the other one was to pull wire at a school, fire alarms. And so that was like at the beginning of my job search, and I never wanted that one. It's just, they called me for an interview. I did well. They didn't choose me, but it wasn't something I wanted. So those are the only 2 interviews I've even had or pursued. And so I'm going to be pursuing more opportunities in the next few weeks here and see what God does. As far as working at a church again full time and pastoring again as a ministry, I'm not saying as a man, as a pastor, but never say never, but that's not really where I'm at now. We thought about it a lot, Rochelle and I, about leaving our current situation and shifting our ministry to go back to the church and be a pastor on a Sunday and all the rest, Monday through Friday, maybe at a church like we've been at, where it's a full-time pastoring job, and I have the credentials, I have the experience, I have connections. I'm not saying it would happen, but it really, actually, there is a church down the street here, not even far from our house, that is hiring someone. I do have a contact where I probably could at least be considered and maybe be one of the finalists, but it's just not, I don't mean energy as in physically or mentally, but it's not where I'm at. And that's really hard to say because I need income and it's ministry and I love the church, but I really believe that God is going to provide a part-time job or something 9 to 5 during the week that I can do, whether it's, like I said, in finances or media or tech or something like that related to what I know. I am an engineer by trade. I also have been an administrator. I know finance, accounting. I know accounting. So something related to that. But as far as pastoring, I'd rather continue to do what I'm doing. And Rochelle and I were just saying how we really want to give our ministry away. Not away, but we want to give our ministry. We don't want to be paid for it. And I'm not saying that we don't want help or income from it. Of course, I mean, if we're ministering, I think it's a fair thing. But as far as a full-time thing, and as I said, never say never. That's just where things are at. When money runs out, you get desperate, but we shouldn't live in desperation or make decisions based on desperate things. And so we believe that God is going to provide something amazing and that we're on the right track. And this is really what my heart desires. And my wife is holding down the fort right now, and I'm doing everything I can to also provide, of course. And I don't want her to have to do that forever or much longer. And so I have a few things that I'm working on, as I said, that could be more of a regular paycheck. Obviously, as you know, a regular paycheck is what everyone needs. But finances is important to talk about, but not out of desperation. You have to be very calm, cool, and collected and think things through. Be wise as a serpent, but be also gentle as a dove. And yet to provide, especially back to being men, that stability for our wives. You know, if she's going to pursue any of her dreams, I need to be at a place where I'm providing a stable paycheck so that she can flourish. And that's just the way God intended things to be. And I've done it for 30 years. I've only been unemployed once before for about almost a year, and this has been a year. And so it's time to make things work. And so we're trusting God. At times, I'm not going to lie, I feel scared and panicked and wow. But mostly I feel focused, and I believe that God is going to provide something, and while my business grows. But as I said, I know that's going to take a few years, and so in the meantime, I have to have a side hustle or maybe a 9 to 5, a job, so that we can make ends meet and be able to just breathe again. So yeah, it's been wonderful to be away and to continue to serve God and to talk things through. And some of the principles, I guess, as I said, are one is to always be open with your wife, with the person you love, with your partner, with your whoever it is, your roommates even, I guess, your parents, to always talk openly about finances, where you're going, what your needs are. You don't have to do that every day. Rochelle and I do it once a month, maybe even once every 3 months, depending, as I said, on how much money we have and how easy life is or how difficult. And so I also wanted to say another thing that has been very positive. I have been feeling more, I guess, more calm. I'm not going to lie, at times, yeah, that panic button gets hit, goes to right there. But I feel more calm. This weekend, it was wonderful to be with Dad. I did. Oh, yeah, evil laugh. And I did tell him, he has a brand new car, Lexus, really nice, and it's raced a little bit. I ran over some rocks and I kind of scratched the bottom of his car. Oh my goodness. I told him and he was kind, and it wasn't that bad. I thought it was really bad, but it only scratched the undercarriage, the black part. And so, but I mean, still, you know, it's your father-in-law and it's his brand new car and his house. You're there to serve him and help him. But apart from that, everything was really beautiful. Being there with Dad was just beautiful. I wish I could show you some pictures here. Maybe, as I said, you can check him out on my Facebook page, I guess. I'm off of Instagram because, except for these once in a while, these lives, because I think of the usual stuff. It was just too much stimulation of what I should be doing with music, with this and that and the other. And I know for business, that's the place to be. But in some ways, some of the people that I am actually hiring or that are hiring me to do work, they're actually more on Facebook because they're older. And older people have more money and they're at a place like me. They're at a similar place like where I'm at, where they want to do something different. They have a lot of experience. And so I think even for business, Facebook is and both are important, because for music production, obviously, Instagram for younger people that are into hip hop and rap and Christian music, obviously Instagram is a place. So I at some point will come back and we'll do some stuff on there. But I think as far as the podcasting studio, that's more where I think where people that will do that, they may tend to be more on Facebook. Both are important, obviously TikTok and all that stuff, but that's a whole different ballgame, right? Of making TikToks. But I think another thing that I've decided, or that was clarified, I was on a website watching a podcast, and then they said, "Oh, I'm at this studio in LA," and I went and looked up the studio, and it's just like mine. But what I like that I learned from it is how they break down the prices. And so I was telling, I don't know if it was Rochelle's dad, or yeah, I think it was him. Sometimes you, as an entrepreneur, as an entrepreneur, whatever, as side hustlers, we, in my case, we give so much, but we don't always have the framework. I'm not a businessman. I've always worked in the church, and I have side projects, so I don't know business per se. But it's important to learn how to sell, how to frame things, how to price things, how not to get taken advantage of, how to have contracts and agreements. And so I still don't know any of that stuff, but when I see something, so I saw this website of this studio in LA, and I love their pricing, just how they price it, because I've noticed that the way I've been pricing it with different customers in the past, it wasn't quite right. It wasn't hitting them right. And so it's because I had no idea, right? And other times, or I would give everything away for free for $1, quote unquote, or for $10 or a donation. And so that made me feel, it wasn't like made me feel, that was just that's not business savvy, right? You can't be giving stuff away. And so I did that for way too long, giving everything away for free, both in music and in podcasting. My point is that website and the way that they laid out the pricing really helped me. And so I'm in the process now of using some of those, of reshaping or redoing my website to kind of clarify for clients what are the services that I provide. Simple things such as audio is one price, video is another price. Just something as simple as that, where I was just giving everything away. A producer or not in the room, a one camera shot versus 2 or 3, all these normal things. What else do they have? YouTube thumbnails or not. I mean, just breaking it down so that, like I said, everything that I normally do, like A to Z for quote for free, instead the client can say, okay, I only want this, or no, I want more. I mean, just typical stuff, right? Again, just being business savvy, which I'm just learning how to do that. Same thing with life coaching. I used to do life coaching for free, and then I would feel terrible, like, man, I'm doing all this stuff for free and I don't have the time, and people are happy, but I'm not, right? And so I began to price things properly, but I also learn what the person needs as far as skills and worksheets and goal setting and some of those things. So I went to a life coaching school. I graduated. I finished the 8-week course, and it gave me all these tools that now I use, and that the person now can be thankful and willing to pay for the life coaching, because there's a structure, and not everyone needs quote unquote paper or goal setting. Some people are less that way. But obviously with life coaching, you want to change your life. Same thing with music production. I used to not have a real good sense of how to do things, cancellation, even what times to record, because it is obviously my home. And so how do you balance and how do you make things work with my beautiful wife and our 3 adult kids and Daisy and just late noise and all that stuff. But now I have a rhythm, and I just learn by watching other people, by seeing what works, by trial and error. And now I'm at a good place. I still need to tweak it. I still have more things that back to the podcasting thing, I still at times give everything away for free or for the same price. But I think I need to just continue to learn what producers do, what studios do, how they charge so that it can be fair to the studio, but also can be a great deal for the artist. And so all those things are just, it just takes time. The good news is that God is at work. There are people that are coming, calling me, DMing me, that are saying, Pastor Trigg, I'd love to work with you. How do I do this? Let's meet. Let's have lunch. I have a lunch that I still haven't been able to meet with her because first I was sick, I wasn't COVID, but man, I got sick again whenever that was, a week ago. And that was like a week long of just feeling terrible, headaches and stuff, whatever that bug has been around. Thankfully, I'm better now. And then, of course, we went away. But this is an amazing entrepreneur. She has her own business. She's an attorney, and she wants to do a podcast. And so we're in the middle of talking about how to put her business and her talent online, and for me to produce her show. And so there's another person who is also a spiritual leader. Well, the first one is not a spiritual leader, she's a lawyer, but this one is a spiritual leader. And so she also wants to do I think it's Spanish, maybe English, maybe both, a show on life insurance and how to promote her business, but also providing tools and tips on how to get ready. And she's been through a lot. And so those are all. I also had another young man, it didn't happen, but he wanted to do a podcast on apologetics, teaching young people how to defend their faith. And that one fell through. But I mean, I've had, even in the last, maybe, I've been podcasting for about 20 years, even before it was cool and all that stuff. And I didn't have this awesome microphone or this gear. It was just a beginning set, a beginning kit per se. And I did it off of Blogger on Google 20 years ago. I remember, even back then, I knew this would be a thing. And I remember meeting with a couple of people to start a business, to do a studio. And I don't know, like I said, maybe I'm not business savvy enough, or people just weren't into it. But anyway, where was I going with that? I don't know where I was going with that. I'm doing this. Oh yeah, that even in these last 20 years, I never got the mayor of Long Beach to be on my podcast, but I've had the head of, was it the cardiac department or center at Long Beach Memorial? Yep, I had him in my show here, on my show in my studio. And I interviewed therapists, of course, my therapist. I've interviewed or had on my show authors who are now well known in the mental health industry, especially. I also had a live podcast at Saddleback Community Church of 10,000, 20,000 with Pastor Rick Warren. Now I think they've passed the baton to a younger couple. But I remember for their mental health conference, I did a live podcast. I also got a chance, speaking of that, to interview Kay Warren, who is Pastor Rick's wife, on the death of her son, in their studios there in Mission Viejo, Santa Margarita area. And I've also interviewed Miss Jamaica. I've interviewed Miss Long Beach because obviously, well, not obviously, but Canela was Miss Teen Long Beach back in 2017. So during that time, I interviewed a bunch of the different pageant winners. So I've interviewed nutritionists, healers. I've interviewed athletes. I've interviewed, of course, musicians, artists, pastors, leaders, and that was me interviewing people from my show. Oh yeah, probably one of the most fun ones that I've had is I interviewed I think she was Steve Harvey's assistant. Shout out to my dear friend Elvira. I met her through USC. I was pastoring at the church at USC. I was the administrator and assistant pastor there for a few years. And so through that relationship, I met Elvira, who is now, she's been on Univision. She's now, I think, well, she's always been into PR, public relations. As I said, she worked with Steve Harvey. All that to say that, and that was, like I said, people that were on my show. But now I want to provide a service here at the house in my studio. I have 2 or 3 sets, the living room, the kitchen, and then my studio here, where I'm providing now services so that other people, I'm now their producer. Speaking of producing, maybe the first time that I really enjoyed and got to see how much I enjoyed producing was also like maybe 10 years ago. Shout out to my friend Celia. She is a yeah, job skills coach, teaching especially a lot of Latino men and women how to put their content online, like she has. And so she had Lupita, I remember, who she brought over to the studio here next door, and I had a nice table, and it was the first time where I put my hair in a ponytail, quote unquote, and I was behind the camera and set up all the show, all the set for her, and coached her through it, and blah blah blah. We did, and then we did some of her content for maybe like 3, 6, 9 months. I have a lot of this stuff on YouTube, and that was my first time that I thought, man, I really like producing. I've always loved being behind the scenes. I like being in front of the camera, but I really love being the second person just as much, if not maybe even more. I'm like a LeBron James, you know. I like to win the scoring title, but I really like to win, just period. Whether I'm assisting or whether I'm dunking, or meaning if I'm on stage singing or preaching, or if I'm behind the scenes producing a musician, a Christian artist, or an influencer. It doesn't really matter to me. I just want to win. I just want to see this message of God get out to the masses through this. And I also want to help churches do the same. And so last year, a church called me here in the area, Paramount, and they said, hey, Trey, we love what you're doing. Can you come and do that here? Can you create a podcast room, a media center? And so I did. And it was amazing. And so now you can see their show online. I mean, it's just awesome. And it was a nice, obviously, income for me, a job, and they are happy. And now we're looking on to partner now, maybe to be a digital consultant for them, maybe a digital, what's the word that I was using? I don't know, not a creative director, but something like that. Basically a digital, let me look it up because I did like the word that I came up with the other day. Designer, yes, a digital designer that can design for them a digital strategy, because just having a media room and even a podcast isn't enough. You have to have a design. How are you going to then blow up, go viral? How are you going to get people to your event now that you have your podcast? So, and that's where Canela and I, she also is a consultant. We're both digital designers. That's where we work together to coach people on branding. We don't do it for them. We have, like I said, we have more of a consulting kind of agency where we consult and we give people kind of a kit tool, or a toolkit, or a kit, I guess, a branding kit, where we say, here are your colors. And also as far as social media and Instagram reels and kind of your look, the same thing, I guess. It's all marketing, branding. So that's what she does, is she consults. And that's what I'm doing now with churches. So I did this one studio, as I mentioned, in Paramount. But now I'm not going to go and do it for them. And really it isn't cost effective for them, because they have volunteers and I already trained them too, and they're doing a great job. But it's more the strategy. So I'm excited about these things. As I said, I just need a steady income right now to make ends meet for the next year. Maybe it is Lyft. Maybe it is working at a library. Maybe it's working at Home Depot. Maybe it's painting houses. I don't really care what it is. I just need something that is a part-time gig, that is maybe 2, 3, 4 days a week, 9 to 5 kind of thing, that will give me that mainstay, so I can continue to see this business through. So I'm praying and trusting God for all that. And I would like for it to be in the school system, only because I think that's a good career move. But as I said, I'm not looking for a career. I'm just looking for a side hustle to make ends meet. And so please let me know if you have anything. Even cleaning homes, I've thought about. I love cleaning houses. And so I do have a friend who cleans houses, and maybe I can join his team and whatever. So, I'm not saying I have no shame, but my point is that it doesn't matter. I'm not here trying to have a prestigious job. My prestigious job already is in heaven. My prestigious job, I've already done amazing things. And as far as prestige, I don't really care. I'm trying to make a difference in the lives of people, and to see 1, 2, 10, 30 million people thrive in music, in preaching, in influencing, in serving other people in the nonprofits. One of the things that we did, Canela and I, as a branding deal that we were paid for pretty well, it was a nonprofit that was doing podcasting, and they were basically raising money through selling coffee. And so we did all of their branding. I did all their podcasting remotely. I was the producer again. and I put on the show for them. I did all their branding. What I did that I really don't want to do is I was also a social media manager. Back to kind of giving away too many things for free. That was just too much, and it really drained me. And I just didn't have the experience to say, you know what, let me not do this. So that's where things kind of went south. But what I did enjoy is producing the podcast. And this is all part of business, right? Is knowing your strengths, knowing what you love, knowing what you do best. Your zone of genius versus your zone of eh. And so I am best at producing, at being in front of the camera. You could say I'm not a big influencer, but mostly I love to produce. And then, of course, I love to preach, teach, sing, lead worship. I love ministry, of course. That's my number one heart, my number one. But we worked with this amazing nonprofit. They were out of Alabama, actually, and Chicago, Alabama, and in South and Central America and Mexico. And so it was amazing. We did interviews in Spanish. I did all their lower thirds, subtitles, podcasts in English and Spanish. I posted it all online. We grew tremendously. It was an awesome thing. It ended, unfortunately, because, as I said, plus a pandemic hit, and then I was going through a bunch of stuff at work, and I couldn't handle both things at the time. I had a full-time job at church, and then I had a full-time thing with this. And so now, by the grace of God, even though it is hard, I don't have that full-time job at church anymore, and it is tough because of all the obvious reasons, financial reasons. But now I have full focus, and now I can actually make things happen. And so all that is good and well, and I'm thankful for what God is doing, even though I now need, as I said, something here to kind of just make ends meet. So please keep me in mind for anything out there, especially I would say in finance and in accounting. I love that. My grandfather was an accountant. I am an engineer, and or technology at a school, at an elementary school, at a college, somewhere here local, Santa Monica, too far. But anything dealing with accounting, finance, with facilities. I don't mean custodial, but I mean like managing a building, managing a facility. I've done that. I did it at USC for 3 years. I managed a 4-story building and a $10 million budget. And so I've managed an $18 million budget. I've managed multiple buildings and all that kind of stuff. So I know that there's a lot that God will do. And like I said, I just need something to make ends meet while this ministry, this business grows, and as I also minister at my local church. So beautiful stuff, beautiful things, a lot of wonderful things that are happening. And I'm nervous, of course. I'm excited all at the same time. And so if you also can send me business for my podcast studio, for my production, music production, or podcast production, please do. Please like this video, comment, subscribe. Thank you again for being here, and I will see you next time. Adios.